Morning traders, welcome to another session of Market Snapshot. I hope everyone is geared up for the opportunities today. Finally, NFP is coming out today, the January US jobs report that was delayed because of the partial US Fed government shutdown. So today we expect some volatility. Remember, the market was kind of on a go slow. It disrupted a lot of market expectations and trading patterns because of lack of that data, right? Why is this important? NFP, you need to understand, is the change in the number of jobs created except in the farming industry, right? So job creation is a very important aspect of any economy because it affects consumer spending, how money is moving around, right? So if guys are not employed, of course there's less money in circulation, right? But if guys are employed, then there's money in circulation, there's demand for products, services. That means manufacturing comes in, services industries grow, and that's how now an economy tends to grow. So it's very important that as we go into NFP at 4:30, we have a clear picture of what the expectations are, right? So we have the average hourly earnings month on month. The expectation is that this will remain at 0.3%. The non-farm employment change, now this is where now everything could pan out. The previous number was 50K. Traders are expecting that the numbers have gone up to 66K. Some are saying 70K. But now that's the forecast. The actual number is what the market will be expecting, right? I remember was it last week when the ADP private numbers, right? They came out. They were very weak, right? And so we really need to understand what's the impact of now this government reporting, right? What's the impact? So there's also unemployment rate at 4.4%. Traders, investors are expecting that to remain the same. So what happens if the number weakens? What happens if the number that will be reported will be less than 66K? Let's say 40K. What happens? Then it means the US economy is probably not doing so well, right? Such that they were not able to create enough jobs as expected. And this is where now you will see the dollar weakening. Why? Because there'll be an anticipation that the Fed will now have to cut the interest rates. Because if they cut interest rates, that brings more money into the economy, cheaper loans, and guys are able to employ and now create those jobs. The other possibility is what happens if the actual number comes out higher than 66K, let's say 70, 80K, 90K. And that's a very huge positive, right? That's a good number because it means jobs were created in the US economy, right? And that means the Fed will not have that pressure of cutting down interest rates. So the dollar will strengthen. As the impact of what we are going into at 4:30. So I will expect to see some volatility, quite some huge volatility as we go into NFP, because remember, this is the first NFP of the year, right? The January NFP, right? For 2026. We want to see how the economy is performing in 2026. So a lot of cards are on this particular announcement to see how is the US economy performing. And the Fed is also waiting for this data, because from this data they'll come up with now strategies. Will we have 3 rate cuts? Because initially it was 2, but now will we be going for 3 rate cuts, right? So that we are bringing down the interest rate so that you can spur the economy, create more jobs, and move the economy up. Of course, there's also the issue of inflation later, but that's not a concern for now. The concern is, especially for Trump, he wants interest rates to be down as of last year, right? And that means the pressure keeps piling up, but then these numbers will speak it. So you can expect if the numbers come out low, like less employment numbers, like 40K, 50K, anything lower than the expectation, then you'll expect Trump to come out hard and say, see, I keep saying we need to see interest rates down. They need to have happened yesterday. Anyway, so that's what we are expecting on this particular news. Unemployment rate, there could be some volatility in case something else comes out, like a reduction in employment, let's say 4.3, 4.2, right? You could see some volatility. So smart traders are traders who wait for that news. Well, there's a conversation around technical traders will always say fundamentals, they come to fill in the setups, right? So the guys will be doing the analysis, and their work is to wait for those support areas, sell areas, so that when price hits those areas, they can enter the market. Yeah, so there are different plays to it. The others will be doing orders, pending orders, buy stops, sell stops, and take advantage of whichever way price moves. So it's all up to you. One thing I'll caution us is don't gamble your money, right? The most important thing during this high impact news is capital preservation. You really want to have your capital tomorrow so that you can take advantage of those setups without so much volatility, right? Unfortunately, today you'll find guys blowing their accounts, trying to chase the setups, trying to chase the volatility. But then after blowing your account, tomorrow you'll need to fund it, right? So why don't you sit on your hands or observe risk management? If you don't understand what you're doing, why don't you come down in terms of your lot size, right? Reduce that so that the market moves do not wipe you out. So those are the plays that I would recommend. But then, hey, for more on this, just attend our classes so that you can have a better understanding of how to play, especially news during news. So with that simple understanding, let's just go to our technicals and see what the charts are saying, because that's fundamentals. Now let's see, what are the technicals saying? If you have any questions, kindly share them and we'll be looking at them towards the end. So let's start off with USDCHF. What is USDCHF doing? So I would want to look at higher time frames. If I go to higher time frames, there's an area of interest here, last month's low. So if the data comes out weak, right, less numbers, anything lower than 66K, the dollar will weaken, right? So there's an expectation that USDCHF could come to hit these lows. Actually, if you look at the technicals, it's like they are looking for a technicals will be looking at a possible sell. Then again, surprises may play out. So that is a possible move on USDCHF. Maybe come down to last month's low, then from there encounter some bulls before taking on maybe a bullish move. So I'll be probably interested in seeing that move. This could play out before the news, right? That's a possibility. But if it plays out after the news, then that will be a good one also. So your work is just to map out those areas and look for potential market moves. So that's what I would probably want to see, a weak USDCHF as we go into NFP or during NFP. So there's a possibility you could see some bullish move, and then later during NFP, a drop. So there are so many ways. Your work is just to wait, have a plan to it, and then enter that market. So let's look at last week's high, this one here. So there's a possibility that we could see that move later. That's a possibility. Okay, let's look at GBP USD. What is GBP USD doing? Go to higher time frames. We have last year's high, this one. And then, of course, we have last month's high as possible targets on GBP USD. So if we go to lower time frames, we'll anticipate a possible bullish move on GBP USD to that area or that high. So those are areas where GBP USD will go to. Maybe I would want to map this one. Last week's high as a possible area. So if you're looking at different take profit targets, then last week's high could act as a take profit target. We also have the weekly that we've seen that as last year's high. Then of course we have last month's high as a swing position maybe. So that would be my projection on GBP USD. This could happen before NFP. This could happen during NFP. But ideally, if I were to look for positions, maybe if GBP USD was to test the low of the week, that right there is an area of interest for me. The low that was set up on Monday. Right, if you were to see a spike, today so many things could play out. We could see a spike to the bottom before a bullish move, spike to the top before. It all depends on what will come out. So your work as a smart trader is one who maps out these areas and says, hey, what happens if this trade does this and this? I've already identified these as a potential buy area. If this trade comes here, then all I need to look at is the confirmations. If they line up, then that's a good buy. Yeah. So don't be surprised if GBP USD comes to this level. Let's look at Euro USD. Euro USD go to higher time frames. On H4, there is another block here. That one. And then we also have last month's high as a possible area where we could encounter some resistance. So looking at this pair, there's a possibility. Let's map out last week's low, that one. So if we were to see that move, then it will be an interesting play. Yeah, so that's what I will be looking at on USD, so Euro USD, right? A possible bullish move. That's Euro USD. Let's see how that trade pans out. So I'm still bullish on Euro USD. Let's have a look at gold. So remember, gold today will be very volatile. It's been consolidating from Monday, as we can see. So let's see where gold will be moving. Remember, it's been acting as a safe haven, especially during that time when we had uncertainty with the jobs and all that. So let's see possible areas where gold should be going to. One should test last week's high. There's also this area right here as a possible target. And then let's have a look at H4. Those are areas. Those are possible areas on gold where we could see moves play out. So if gold was to test yesterday's low, it would be a good trade for me before going up. Either yesterday's low or the weekly low, the low that was set up on Monday. Those are areas of interest. on gold. So a bullish move at something of interest. Alternatively, we have that area as a possible area where we could see opportunities. And so those are areas you just map out and see what happens when price gets there. Remember, you should ideally, a good trader is one who trades based on confirmation. So you should always confirm your trades before you enter a setup. Right? That's the only way you'll have consistency, because you are able to say, hey, I entered this trade because of one, I saw this setup. This was the area of supply, demand, support, resistance, FVG, order, whatever it is. And then I confirmed by looking at 1, 2, 3 candlestick patterns. And that became a bullish trade. So with that, you're able to say, hey, this is my trading plan. This is what I do before I enter any market, right? So let's see how that plays out. Then we have NZD USD. Initially, I was looking for a bullish move to this high, which is the January high. If you go to the daily chart, we will see it, right? The high of January. So I would want to see NZD USD test this area. So I'll still maintain this analysis. If NZD USD, okay, let's remove. It's just okay. So this is that high. That's a possible area with strong sellers. Then we have that order block, right? So if NZD USD was to give us a bearish move as we go into NFP, and then during NFP we see a bullish push, then it will be an interesting setup for me. It should line up with what I'm anticipating. Bearish move and then a bullish move. Yeah, so if we were to see that, then that's a setup I'll be interested in getting into. Then we have UT100. Let's go to higher time frames to have a clear understanding. UT100, remember, if the job market comes out, if the numbers come out higher, right, then clearly we will see some volatility on Nasdaq, right? We could see a weakening Nasdaq. But if numbers come out lower, right, Nasdaq will be a big beneficiary, because by numbers coming out lower, it means the economy has not created good jobs. That could be a problem with, lack of, cheap loans and all that, right, to expand and even maybe start businesses. And so remember a company like Microsoft, Alibaba, Oracle, we've seen Oracle going for debt, right? So if debt is available at a cheaper price, that's something that every business would want to pick up, right? So when the numbers are lower, we've seen projections 6K. If numbers come out 50K, 40K, then expect the strengthening of Nasdaq, because it will benefit from that due to that anticipation of rate cuts, yeah, which leads to cheaper loans. So let's see possible moves on Nasdaq. Could see it test this area on the daily chart, and then let's see H1 on H4. Last week's high is also an area of interest, or even that order block right here. That's an area where Nasdaq could test. So if Nasdaq drops, maybe to test the low of Monday, this one, the low of the week, this is the weekly low. Okay, if it were to test this area, then take on a bullish move, then that will be a good setup. That will be an area, a good setup. Maybe last week's high, yeah, That's also another possible take profit target. Let's see on the daily. There's also this one. Yeah, so all those are targets on Nasdaq. A bearish move, take profit one could be here, take profit two, take profit three, take profit four. If you're looking at a swing position, yeah, maybe something of the sort. Let's look at USDJPY. So last week, I remember doing this analysis on USDJPY, and I'd mentioned that there's a possibility that we could encounter some resistance here. And clearly, we saw some resistance playing out that led to this bearish move, but mostly was because of the elections in Japan, where the PM, the party, the Labour Party won. The last time they had such a majority in their parliament was it's a number that has not been seen post World War II, right? So that tells you the confidence that the parliament, the citizens, because they were the ones voting, have on this lady prime minister, first lady prime minister in Japan. So that tells you that that confidence translated in the markets where the Japanese yen strengthened, because she's an expansionist. Like, she's looking at spending, defense, she's looking at creating jobs, like reducing consumer tax, food tax. So she's looking at the best interest of the Japanese people, and that's why they decided to vote her and give her even a parliament that can support her work. Like without majority in any parliament, you'll have a problem, and this is what the US has been facing. Although they have a majority, but then when you have one guy in the Republican bringing issues to guys, then it becomes a problem. And that's why everyone is looking at the midterms this year to see how that will affect Trump's policies. So let's analyze USDJPY. Let's go to higher time frames. So let's remove these. Okay, from a weekly time frame, I'm looking at this order block here as a possible support area. If you go to the daily, this order block also could be an area of interest. There's a high chance finally USDJPY could close this gap from October last year. It's a possibility that this gap could be closed. So let's see how that pans out. So for now, let's look at a possible bullish move before a continuation of the sell. I'm still bearish on USDJPY, and an area of interest will also be last month's low. See this area here. That's also an area of interest on this particular pair. So if we were to see a bullish move, a slight bullish move before continuation of the bearish move to maybe the Asian high, which is today's highest price during Asian session. Yeah, so a bullish move, then maybe from there we could encounter a continuation of the sellers. And the goal maybe is to come all the way. So those are some of the plays on USDJPY. But it will be interesting to see this area being tested, finally having us close this gap. This gap here. All right, so let's see how the market reacts to those areas. Yeah, that's it on USDJPY. There's something you can see on your screen, we'll be having a bullish event. If you're a prop firm guy, if you trade your own money, you really don't want to miss this conversation. Which one is king? Like, if you're doing prop farms, if you're trading your own money, which one runs the show, right? So you don't want to miss that conversation. Just register. Make sure that you visit the Bullish Banter social media handles, register, and let's meet on Saturday next week, February 21st, in the morning from 9. And I'm sure we'll get so much value from that conversation. So the link is in the description box. So just go below this video. You'll see that link, register, and let's meet up there. I'll be moderating that session, and I'm sure it will be quite exciting. Any questions? What would you want us to cover? Let me have a look at what you want us to cover. I've done USD CHF. So let me do a recap. So there's a possibility that later this could play out, a drop and then a bullish move. Then we have GBP USD. We could see a possible bullish move, but then I pointed out that if GBP USD was to come down here, that would give us some good setups. Yeah. Okay. Good morning, traders. NFP is on Friday. Okay. Anyone else? Kindly note NFP is today, as pointed out. Okay. Who else? Any other? That's GBP USD. That's a possible outlook. Then we have Euro USD. Right, so we are seeing that a possible if Euro USD was to drop to last week's low, maybe during the volatility of the NFP today, then it will give us some good area. But then we also have a possible, let me see, there's also an area here of interest where we could see a bullish move. XAU USD, we've seen a possible bearish move and then a bullish move. So our work is to wait and see whether price reacts to those areas. Then we have NZD USD. Right, so a possible bearish move and then a bullish move, and that could present an opportunity, a bullish move. UT100, a possible bearish move, right? A test of the low on Monday, the low that was set up on Monday, and then a bullish move. USDJPY, a bullish move, and then a possible sell move. Right, a bullish move and then a continuation of the sell, and maybe we could finally get to close this gap. Yeah, that's it. I think. Any question? I don't see a question. Do I have a question that I might have missed out? Once again, remember we also have the Karibu bonus, right? Silver. Okay. Okay. Let's have a look at silver XAG. So I'll need to map out that high, last week's high. So I want to map out that order block that is yet to be tested. That one, and possibly that one. Okay, so if I were to look for opportunities on silver, I'll probably take a buy on silver from here. So I wouldn't be interested in that bullish move that is currently playing out. I'll probably want to see silver come down, test this area before continuing on a bullish move. That's at least what I would want to see cliff on silver. Any other asset? Euro JPY. Okay, let's have a look at Euro JPY. Okay, I'll just have to add it. Do I? Okay, say one time. Once again, JPY has been strong, courtesy of the new prime minister and her vote of confidence when she was elected. So we expect to see a continuation of the same. We have that last month's low. We also have that area. So I'm still bearish on this one, just like we've seen on USDJPY. So maybe we could encounter a bullish move to this high before continuation of the sell. Yeah, so a bullish move would be something of interest, and then a continuation of the sell to those areas. Any other pair that you want us to look at? That's Euro JPY. What changed? Yeah, interesting. Actually, it's not always. It's not every first Friday. There are people. I remember, was it in 2017? There was a time we also had a similar situation where NFP was not on the first Friday. Now, China Graham, I hope I pronounce your name well. Remember, last month there was a shutdown in the US. That meant there were no resources for the Fed guys, and so they had to go home. So they didn't compile the data, right? But then Trump, Senate passed, Congress passed the bill, and Trump signed it into law, allocations, and these guys are now back. So they have to now to report the data. So it's delayed data. Okay, that's the problem. That is what happened. I hope you're clear on that. Today's NFP or Friday's CPI. Well, today's NFP will be impactful because this is data that has been missing, and we've been operating on a gray area. We don't know how the economy is from the government side. We know from the ADP, right? We know that the numbers came out weak in the private industry, but what about the actual number from the government, right? Which people will always say has better tracking systems. So I would say an NFP, but then Friday's CPI could also have some impact. But I'll be biased on NFP today, James. I'll be looking at more of NFP because today's NFP is the first non-farm data, yeah, for 2026. So I expect that. JPY is strong. Why is it dumping? Maureen, I've mentioned that the new prime minister, right, has come in with new policies, and the Japanese citizens are like, yeah, we really support you, and that's why they gave her a majority in Congress, in their parliament, right? So that vote of confidence led to what we can see on our charts. That now there's that confidence that the economy will be doing well, right, based on her policies. So it's just a matter of reacting to that particular move. Because she's saying like she's going into tech, like, to be at par with the rest of the countries. Like I think Japan has been left behind for quite some time, but let's see how that plays out. But it's been long overdue. That strong JPY has been long overdue. Any other? Okay, so don't miss out on the bullish banter. Prop farm conversation. Which one is better? Prop farms, trading your own money. All right. So sign up for that bullish event. There's a link in the description box. Just go there, sign up, and let's meet up next weekend, next Saturday, February 21st, from 9 a.m. at ALX Capital. So don't miss out on that. All right, bye-bye, guys. Today's the day where you observe risk management. Very important. Make sure that you have your right lot size. Make sure you have your stop losses. Unfortunately, today we'll find guys blowing their accounts. It happens. But hey, capital preservation should be your number one goal, right? Make sure that you have your capital tomorrow when the trade opportunities come in. Rather than blow today, then you have to keep funding your account. Be bullish.